Do you ever start animating a new project and then wonder where your entire day went? Well, after a decade of using After Effects almost every single day, I'm going to share with you 5 workflow improvements that will completely change that. And this isn't just a case of learning a few keyboard shortcuts. These are actual workflow techniques and improvements that I use on a day-to-day basis that I'm going to share with you. Now, a lot of people, and I'll be honest, including myself up until not so long ago, likes to just open After Effects and completely wing it. We like to start by just creating shapes and dropping down as many keyframes as possible, hoping that something will magically come together. And it's only until a few hours later we realize we're getting absolutely nowhere and it all ends in frustration. However, the fastest animators, they solve their problems before they even open After Effects. Since I realized how important the pre-production process actually is, I spend a lot more time outside of After Effects before I even open it. Starting with mood boards, filling your brain with inspiration, creating style frames, creating storyboards, thumbnail sketches, you name it. Although this does take more time up front, it actually makes things faster and much easier when it comes to animating a project in After Effects. When you actually have a clear plan, animation becomes way easier and a lot more fun. It's a case of problem solving and execution, as opposed to thinking of what you're trying to put together as you go along. And trust me, those extra minutes you save on those projects will really begin to add up. But this is only the start of things. Because I think for many of us, when we first start learning After Effects, it's so easy to get sucked into the world of plugins. And that's because we see some work that someone else has done and think that that effect or animation is simply not possible. It must be through a plugin that we simply don't have access to. That's the only explanation, right? When in reality, it's simply a skill issue. Now, don't get me wrong, plugins are great and can really speed up the process, but only if you understand exactly what they're doing for you. I'm simply not a big advocate of beginners using plugins as a crutch and not really understanding the fundamentals. Because realistically, if you didn't have those plugins, could you still achieve similar results? However, plugins that do speed up the process, things like Overlord, which allows me to import my Illustrator layers directly into After Effects and keeps them as shape layers, FX Console, so I can quickly search for effects much faster, and Ease Copy, so I don't have to spend hours copying easing curves manually, do in fact save me heaps of time, and they're the ones I'll always recommend. Plugins like these allow me to focus my time completely on the style and execution rather than the same repetitive tasks, the ones that will constantly slow you down. Now, if you're at a point where you are unsure about the fundamentals, here's where I'd recommend my Motion Essentials course. I've spent over 10 years mastering After Effects, and I've built this course around the lessons that I wish I had when I first started. Every lesson is short, focused, and builds on the last, so you'll always know why you're doing something and simply not just where to click. You'll learn the fundamentals in the perfect order, step by step, and you'll actually use what you learn by building real projects. By the end, you'll have more than just knowledge. You'll have a stunning portfolio of work that proves exactly what you can do. And along the way, I'll be there to support you with the private community. If you are interested, you can check that out using the link in the description below. To swiftly move on, there's also something we can utilize that will massively speed up our workflow, and it's actually already built into After Effects. Now, for years, I would rebuild the same text animations, the same effect stacks, and the same expressions controllers. Every single project. But when I realized I could actually save these as presets, it allowed me to work twice as fast because I didn't have to remake the same animations every project. To save animation presets, it's actually really easy to do. So say I have this range selector animation here, and it's a simple Y position up with a bit of opacity on as well. All I need to do is select both of the text animators responsible for the animation, and then I can go up to my animation tab up here and go to save animation presets. You'll then be directed to user presets folders, and I can change this to be word by word and then Y pause and fade. And I can just hit save. And now if I go ahead and create a new composition and we'll add some text, I can now search for word by word in my effects and presets tab over here. And you'll see I have my word by word, Y pos and phase, Y position. And I can just drag that onto my text layer here. And now that'll be animated for me. And I'll just need to recenter that. And then we have a perfectly reusable animation preset. Now this does also work for effects as well. So say I have this glow layer here, and when I turn it on, you can see it makes a huge difference. It's kind of like using the plugin Deep Glow. And I want to save all of these so I don't have to remake them for every project every time I want to create a nice glow. All I'm going to do is select all of the effects in this stack. And then again, we can go to animation and save animation preset. And I can call this glow. And we'll click save. And then now, if I was to delete all of these, I can go over to my effects and presets over here and type in glow. We'll see Scott's glow over here. And I'm just going to drag that to my layer. And all them glows will be added exactly at the values I left them. So if you're wanting this to start from default values, maybe leave them as default. But if there's a specific setup that you've made with your effects, you can do that. And as easy as that, you have your own library of animation presets that you can use for any project that you need. But realistically, none of what I've actually mentioned matters if your project is really hard to navigate. And that's a really easy trap to fall into. So if a popular Australian motion designer didn't already remind you enough, messy projects are slow projects. Every asset needs to have a home, and every layer needs to have a name. And I even like to go to the effort of color coding all of mine, like I'm making a tiny little timeline rainbow. This is personal preference, but I do also like to pre-compose things I'm going to reuse or to reduce my layer stack. So I'm not scrolling through about 300 layers by the time I come to the end of the project. By keeping this organized now, you're not only doing your future self a favor, but also anyone else who opens up your project. I won't need to work out what shape layer 69 does in my timeline because it's nicely labeled. But instead, I can clearly see what everything is and what it's actually doing. And so can any of the team that I might be working with. But even when everything is perfectly organized, there's still one final way to speed up your work. And it's one that nobody can skip. The truth is, After Effects doesn't get faster simply because you want it to. It gets faster because you build memory. Like knowing exactly how to fix your easing in the graph editor, or what effects you need to layer up to achieve the look you're after. And that only comes from doing things over and over again, hundreds and thousands of times. Every project that you finish should teach you something new. Every animation that you look at teaches you one more way that motion can feel alive. And one day you'll be sat there and you'll realize you became faster at After Effects because you became the type of person that works faster. Not because you added another 5 plugins and presets to your library. There's actually something way more important than all of these tips that I've mentioned. And it's not a plugin, it's not a preset, it's actually making sure that you learn After Effects the right way. So watch this video right here and I'll show you exactly how to master it, even if you're brand new to motion graphics.